Hello and welcome to Tales from the Backlog. I am Steve Boshear and I will be playing this game this evening. Let's hear from the rest of us. Start here. We go this way. Introduce yourselves. We'll go around later and introduce our characters.
I am Sarah, and I will be playing the Contessa di Fiorenza.
What? All
and
right.
there's a reason she talks like that.
Am I supposed to introduce my character too right now?
Look, I don't know. People are doing what they want, man.
Well, I'm Jason, and I'm playing Lord Bernard Monsterson of the what was that? Oh, yeah, I know.
Of the long-ass name.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't the only one to go of the Walridington Monstersons.
Yes.
As opposed to the Beevington Monstersons, who are common-born scum.
The irascible codswallop, Lord Bernard Monsterson, of the Walridington Monstersons.
I didn't want to brag.
And lastly?
But most importantly, I am Yuri, playing Lady Luring de Luder.
Lady Luring de Luder. And I, of course, am playing Count Salvio Pietro Buenaventura. Tonight's game is The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Jason, you want to give us a quick spiel on how we do this?
Sure. As I'm the one that brought this here and said we should play this, it fits that I should be the one to explain it.
Yeah.
Obviously from memory and not just reading from the book.
Of course, sir.
So we are each personifying our noblest selves. Obviously, this is a noble's game, and we will essentially be wagering against each other in a tale of stories. As we recount our extraordinary adventures between ourselves.
Yes. Yes, it will be most entertaining to hear all of you attempting to top my exploits.
It will be.
It will be.
Because not only are my exploits entertaining, but they are just that much more.
Of course. All right. So, I think the best way to explain this game is just to start playing it, honestly, because unlike many of the games we play here, the rulebook is 145 pages. We have played games with rulebooks anywhere from 1 page to several hundred, so this is kind of on the longer end.
Well, I mean, I will note that the rules themselves fit onto about. I have fit these rules onto 1 page.
Of course, because the rule book is written as from the viewpoint of Baron Munchausen himself, and he is a wordy fellow.
Yes. Very wordy.
All right, so the rule says that the person who last filled the party's glasses starts the game. Since we are not actually in a bar buying drinks, I have a D4. I will be 1, Sarah will be 2, Jason will be 3, Yuri will be 4.
Last and most important.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Let's not forget that.
I mean, as it happens, that is the order in which you each joined this show for the first time. It is 3. That is Jason.
That is me. Milady, pray tell you. Pray tell
I'm sorry,
you.
one moment. Let me put up the thing. Aha! These are the coins that we can pass to each other. Let me know and I will move them for you.
Well, as I was saying, dear lady, would you regale us of the tale of why you never remove your hat in the company of Greeks?
Oh, my dear Lord Monsterson. Monsterson?
Monsterson.
Monsterson. Yes, my dear Lord Monsterson. That is a long and lurid tale, of which I doubt we have much time. So in brief, I shall regale you of why I never wear a hat in front of the Greeks. And it all goes back to the very fact that I was in the Balkan area looking for the famed treasure of Agron the First, let him be forever remembered, of Illyria, the first king of Illyria. And unfortunately, through my long travails there in search of this famed treasure, whether it be a scepter or a diadem or a locket, I am not quite sure at this point, I was unaccountably chased by some rabid dogs through this town, and to elude these dogs from chasing me, I found this very, very rapaciously smelling hat that smelled not just of skunk, but of skunk cabbage and possum butt. And I put this hat on top of my head to elude not just these rabid dogs that were chasing me, but these rabid dogs belonged to a group of ordinary Greeks.
My lady.
Yes, my lord.
I believe I've heard some of this story before, and you said nothing of or in fact, you only praised the sweet smell of this hat you found.
I did. It smelled very sweet, like skunk cabbage and possum butt, and the innards of a skunk, which, let me tell you, smells very lovely and putrid.
Okay.
The hat itself.
Is that accepting or explaining it away?
Yeah.
I think it is.
I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. On with the story, please.
Yes. So as I was running away from these group of rabid dogs who were owned by a group of ornery Greeks, because for some reason they thought I had a piece of this famed treasure.
Pardon, lady. Were you this? I'm not contesting, but did you say honorary Greeks or ornery Greeks?
They're both ornery and honorary.
Indeed, a company that is both, one can have honor and still be annoying.
Indeed, dear Contessa, indeed. So as I was escaping through this very narrow alley from the rabid dogs who were owned by these honorary and ornery Greeks, I happened upon this putrid, wonderful smelling hat that masked me from my, how should I say it? These people who were mistakenly thought I had come away with some sort of treasure. But if I were to return to that area in town without this hat, they would know my smell. And so I shall never, ever return to Greece without this hat. And that is a tell of why I always wear a hat in the company of Greeks, in case they can smell me out.
very good.
Okay.
Very good.
No huzzas?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
huzzah.
Huzzah! A fine
I'm
tale.
so engrossed in your tale, I did forget my accent for a moment there. Truly, there is no greater compliment to a storyteller.
Oh, thank you, my dear Contessa.
All right.
Of course, my dear lady.
So, I guess I'm the person to your right, yes?
Ah, yes, I believe so. It's so difficult to tell sometimes left, right, especially when you've been imbibing.
Yeah, I think if
you
we're
were-
looking at the tabletop
I don't know
here,
what
we're
you're talking about.
going to the left looking at the tabletop because Lord Monsterson requested a tale of Lady Ludher, so we're going that direction.
Yes. Very well then, my dear Bonaventura. Can you perhaps tell us at that time that you circumnavigated the world without leaving your house?
I was so worried you were going for a different word that began with circum.
Ah, yes, well, it
as
very
we are.
nearly was that. For you see, my home is a place of much luxury and comfort, the likes of which are not to be found in many places on the earth. Moreover, it is a home that I myself built. Why would I wish to go someplace else when the place where I live was designed by me for me? You see? So it occurred to me that if I
Dear
wished,
talents.
yes, Lord.
Yeah, put that coin up there. When you speak of your grand house that you spent all this time building for yourself, but I for a fact know that was but a hovel that you had cobbled together in the gutters of that fair city.
Ah, well, sir, you see, it was a hovel when I acquired it from its previous owner, but over the course of many months of hard work and much fortune, I transformed the hovel, also partly by acquiring neighboring buildings and attaching them via various means of construction. So you're indeed quite correct. It was a hovel, but I believe that when you last visited, it was before the renovations.
Apparently so. All I had seen was a corrugated roof and some mud wall.
Ah, indeed. It is better, Lord Monsterson, to buy cheap and improve yourself in such a manner ensuring that your home will be built exactly to your own specifications.
I will take your word on cheapness to your account.
As I was saying, the home that I built was designed by myself for myself, and so in order to circumnavigate the globe in comfort, I resolved to take my home with me. So I did what any intelligent person would do. I hired 525 hot air balloonists. They affixed their vessels to the foundations of my home, while I stood outside with a hammer and a chisel. I broke my home free from the street surrounding it, and as soon as it started to lift off of the ground, I leapt into the air, jumping just in through my entryway at the last moment before it was out of reach. And with the aid of these many balloonists, fine fellows, though a bit untrustworthy, I was able to circumnavigate the entire globe, not west to east, but north to south. For you see, in such a manner, one can witness the North Pole and the South Pole. I was, in fact, the first to do both in one trip.
But my dear Count, you can go ahead and move the coin over for me. How could you have possibly gone north to south when I know for a fact that Santa Claus does not abide any airships crossing over his airspace.
Oh, too true, Contessa, too true.
I'm checking a rule here.
Oh. No Santa Claus?
No, not that rule.
All right.
I'm going to. I just want to do the other thing that we haven't done yet. That's all.
Naturally.
Contessa, I'm sorry. I believe you are misinformed. You see, Santa Claus is governed by international law, of which he himself is a signatory, and he is not permitted to shoot down unidentified aircraft without first making contact. He did, in fact, greet me in the sky above the borders of his realm. And when he found out that it was, in fact, myself, Consalvio Pietro Brenaventura, he was more than delighted to let me pass through for the small price of sharing a drink with him in his home.
I suppose that does make sense. Everybody knows that Santa Claus does like to enjoy a drink.
Yes, oh, very much he does. And in fact, so enamored was he with my company that he provided me with a small pouch of magical dust, which would aid my journey going forward. Using this, I was able to speed up the travel of my house around the world, to the point where it took me only 4 days by balloon power to travel all the way around the earth and return to my home in the city, although I found it much more comfortable than any other place I had visited.
Well, I'll give that a huzzah. What a wonderful story.
Oh, well, thank you, my dear Contessa. Now, I wonder if you could clear up a certain matter for me.
Oh, of course.
Sorry, Kenny's in the chat asking if the magical dust was cocaine.
It doesn't make you fly.
Which indeed it may have been, given the time period. All right.
But
Contessa,
Santa would have given it to you in a snuff box or something instead. A little pouch.
I wonder if you may clear up a small matter for me. I heard a rumor that a flight of swans helped you free the kidnapped Prince of Persia.
Oh. Oh, it is so funny how these rumors do get started. That one actually is true. I did indeed. Though that was so bizarre how that whole thing went down. Obviously, I can't tell you all the details. I am bound to the laws of secrecy, of course, now being made a dame of the Kingdom of Persia, as well as my own title. But I can tell you what I can. So that actually, it's so funny. You see, animals have always loved me. Ever since I was just a little girl growing up on our horse and bourbon farm in Kentucky. Before I set off to become the global traveler that I was, just birds would come out of the sky, and in this case, out of the water. Some of them were in the water, some of them were in the sky, and they were so upset, and I just couldn't understand why. Of
Contessa,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can't help but notice that you mentioned you are from Kentucky when both your speech and your manner of dress suggest that you are, in fact, from the state of Georgia.
Oh, well, my dear Count, that is an understandable mistake. My country is a very young one. In fact, depending on exactly when this game is taking place, it may actually be pre-born, as it were. But yes, the boundaries of exact states are a little flexible right now. So what was once Georgia may now be Kentucky. What was Kentucky could wind up over in Pennsylvania. And in a few more years we'll have few more decades, we'll have an Arizona too. Won't that be funny?
But Countess, surely you cannot deny that Arizona is the mythical realm of Titania, Queen of the Fairies, who, as we all know, would never cede her land to a country as, shall we say, juvenile as your own.
Ah, why, Karen, I think you're looking at this entirely the wrong way. After all, it's not the land itself of the fairies. It's been named in honor of her, just like so many of the wonderful places. How Georgia was named after King George, how Pennsylvania was named after Queen Pevensey, and New York, of course, named after the Empress Nouveau Yorkino of India. You've heard of him.
Ah, yes, I recall now.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Indeed, that does make sense. Do go on with your story, Condessa.
Of course. I haven't even gotten to the good bit yet. So, anyway, there I was, strolling along the Isle of Corfu, my wind in my hair, mourning the loss of my third husband, when I saw a great disturbance. The swans were coming out of the water. And then one of them came up to me, put its head under my hand and lifted it up as if to say, come with us, recognizing a pure soul such as myself who only ever wants to help people. Only. I followed where they led, and it was, if you wouldn't believe it, a swan boat. A boat not shaped like a swan, but actually made of swans, just like a whole bunch of swans all kind of stuck together. Like, I wasn't entirely sure if there was some sort of glue going on or if it was just very well-trained swans. But at any rate, I got into the swan boat and they floated me off into the ocean. And wouldn't you know it, a day, a night, another day. Oh, the sun was beating down, but the swans were just covering me with their wings and their feathers. It was beautiful. And of course, I just was surviving off. Dude. And then we came upon the most beautiful island I had ever seen. And I heard this entrancing music floating through the air. And a moment later, I thought, oh, I should cover my ears. This must be the song of the siren. But it had no effect on me, of course, being of the feminine persuasion. The song of the siren, no effect. And we just floated on past those lovely ladies, and I took a moment to greet them politely. Mother always said good manners will get you far in life, and she has not been wrong. And you know, those girls were just so glad to have somebody to talk to. You know, it is so difficult when all you ever meet are men who are just instantly enchanted and just have not a thought in their head. And I can relate. I have that effect on men myself.
One moment, my dear Forenza. Isn't it true that that area that you just mentioned where the sirens are, isn't that area known for gorgons instead? And the sirens don't even live in that part of town.
Oh, darling, of course not. That's why this island was so magical and protected. This was a sanctuary of sirens, hiding from the gorgons. They explained the whole thing to me. That they didn't mean to enchant the men. They didn't mean to kidnap the poor Prince of Persia. He was just an innocent bystander in the wrong place at the wrong time. But they had to keep their supplies running because they just needed the supplies on the boat because the Gorgons wouldn't let anything through. It was a shame. So, of course, all we needed, really all anybody needs in life is just somebody to come in and take charge. So I was happy to straighten everything out. First of all, enchant the Prince of Persia, not a problem, just showed him my face and the whole spell dissipated. I have that effect on men. After that, it was another matter. Swans floated us back to shore and I was more than happy to arrange. Did you know there is a crew of, well, pirates is an ugly word. They prefer privateers. all ladies. And those who choose to identify as ladies, which, as it turns out, does count. We're a siren, you know?
Excuse me, Contessa, I hate to interrupt again, but it is well known that the common vessel of privateers will refuse to sail with women aboard, for ships themselves are of the feminine persuasion, and they do in fact get very jealous.
You are absolutely right, and this was no common ship. This was a male ship, and he only wanted women.
Fascinating.
I thought so as well. It was very fortunate that I happened to know a friend of a friend, who shouldn't mention any names, but it was Benjamin Franklin, who knew these ladies.
Who?
I was more than happy to arrange for them to give directions, arrange a shipping schedule with regular supply drop-offs, and took care of everything, really. Honestly, all most people want in life is just somebody to come in and sort out the details for them. And of course, later, a few months after that, the Prince of Persia was my fourth husband, but, well, that's a story for another time.
What a tale!
Huzzah!
Thank you, darling. What has become of my accent?
I was wondering that of myself as well.
On the way of the dinosaurs, I assume.
Indeed it has. And now I believe there is one person left at our table who hasn't shared. Lord Monsterson, you must inform us. I have heard so many tales, and I would very much like to know why your mustache never needs to be trimmed.
Yes. Well, it just so happens that some years ago, when I was but a mere lad, I was traveling all over the world. Unlike the good Count, though, I was doing it from the comfort of my own home, but without moving. For I had a vast library at my disposal, works from all over the globe, so I didn't have to go anywhere to travel. And I had been my patch beard had been coming in slower than most. But I thought, I must have an answer here somewhere. So I went scouring my library until I found a particular old tome that spoke of a special wax from a specific species of hornet that can only be found in the Scottish Highlands. So, as a bold young lad, I set out and promptly got lost. I'm sad to say, my sense of direction wasn't what it would be. But, much to my luck, I met a sheep herder in the deep hills of Scotland who was able to get me back on path, and direct me better to where direct me to the forest from whence these hornets only lived.
Now, hold on just a second.
Yes.
Lord Monsterson, I can accept the hornets, but how could a shepherd have possibly spoken to you in Scotland? Everybody knows around that time that was when they banned kilts in Scotland, and the whole nation of Scotland was in mourning. It was in no condition for polite conversation.
Oh, yes.
True. You are correct in your timing. dear Contessa.
Mm-hmm.
But as someone who was of moderate Scottish descent, we exchanged some drink, and with that drink came a loosening of the tongue of this young sheep swain, and he was able to impart to me the concept of where these hornets were located.
Uh-huh. Now that does make sense.
So I left the sheep swain to his herd and ventured deep into this dark, dank forest, from whence no other man had returned.
Mm-hmm.
But I was not worried, because I've been around forests before. I know their tricks, their trees, their dirt, their grass, leaves. And eventually I was able to find the tree, this great dead tree. And within that tree was the hornet's nest, from whence I needed to extract just a single comb a single comb of wax for my purposes. So I took my time. I tried to use what brain power I had as a young lad. And it came to me that I had brought enough smoking kit with me, because I was a prolific smoker at the time as well. So I got my pipe together, lit it with the tobacco. It's my own special blend of tobacco, and
Excuse me, Lord Monsterson.
yes.
I would not doubt your tale, except that it is well known that Scottish hornets are in fact devious tobacco fiends, and would not have been dispersed by your lighting of your pipe, but would in fact have flown directly into it, most likely stinging you all over your face and mouth for simply possessing their beloved substance.
Well, you get ahead of me, sir.
Ah.
Because after just a couple puffs of smoke into their hive, the queen hornet burst forth, demanding my special blend of tobacco. And I made a deal with her that I would trade her all that I had brought with me if she would grant me but one comb of wax from her hive. Aha.
Very clever.
Which she did. She agreed. It was obviously she was very taken with my generosity and my tobacco mixing. And I was able to bring that with that comb of wax from the hornet's nest. I was able to distill that down into a fine, almost watery substance, which seemingly lasts forever when used on facial hair. And that is how I never need wax or, pray tell, 10. And just the more it grows, a little more wax each time.
Fantastic.
And
we're kind of losing you there, Jason. You're coming in spurts.
Yeah, and I vow that everything I have said here is true and correct. And if anyone should doubt me, I will challenge them to a duel. Hurrah.
Fair sport.
Indeed.
Who would doubt the word of a fine, upstanding gentleman such as yourself, Lord Monsterson?
Of course. And it's such a tale of the tribe of liquor and tobacco being carried upon the person.
Indeed.
Why you should never leave home without it.
Quite important indeed.
It's an investment.
Alrighty. By my word. Okay, so... Just a minute. Okay, so, by my word, I declare that the story about... Oh my god. I'm sorry, I've been having trouble remembering anything, and y'all are super low res right now.
Yeah,
like,
so are you.
Incredibly low res.
I think your internet connection.
Yeah, I believe that.
You're low res on this end.
Yes, if you're looking for names, you're the Lord, Yuri is the lady, Steve is the Count, and I'm the
Lord,
Contessa.
Lady, Count, Tessa.
Contessa. Mm-hmm. Courtesy of my second husband.
A bright fellow he
Well,
was indeed.
I would declare that the story about rescuing the Prince of Persia, told by the Contessa, was the most extraordinary story I have ever heard. I pass my purse that way.
Lord Monsters, you are too kind.
So then, they're her bounty.
Yes.
All right. There we go. I'm putting them sort of somewhere else here.
Yeah.
This is the bounty.
Well, I hope. Oh,
Question, dear friends. Were we to engage in a duel, would we lose all of our bounty or our purse to the person that we lost the duel to?
You would lose your purse to the person you were dueling and be dropped out of the game overall. But this is not the time for dueling.
Yeah, I think house rule, we should say, if a duel does take place, then that player is only out of the current round.
Well, yeah.
And also, since paper, rock, scissors is a little difficult over Skype, perhaps we should do the thing off screen, and after shooting, bring it up. That would be best. Okay, well, that was Lord Monsterson's turn to start a round.
well, I do declare that.
Then we're supposed to go. We're supposed to go around
around the same order. Okay.
Yeah, that's then as in order. Each other player pledges the whole of their purse to their favorite tale, and the player with the largest bounty at the end is declared the winner and must buy a final round of drinks. However, they may also pose the question for the first story of the next game when that's played.
Of course.
I assumed we were going to do that and then move into the
My
next
bad,
round.
I skipped over it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or possibly do that,
Yes.
take a
So we
break,
all need
and
to
then
get-
start the next
we all-
round.
We all give our opinion on which was the best story, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
just Lord Monsters.
That's right. That's what he just said.
Yes.
So
Okay.
he went first, and then let's go around from Yuri
I must say, as thrilling as that story of being lost in the woods as a young boy and battling with hornets with the smoke of your tobacco, and you, Count Buenaventura, flying through the skies in the air balloons, I must say the swan boats caught my fancy and captured my interest. I, too, am giving my purse to the Contessa di Florenza.
Oh, you're all too kind. I'm blushing.
Well deserved, my dear friend.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But by my word, I declare that the story about hornet-procured mustache wax told by Lord Monsterson was indeed the most extraordinary story that I have ever heard. Doesn't really fit. I'm going to put it like there.
okay. I do think, while there have been some truly epic tales told around this table for the last few minutes, I have to say, anybody who gets to share a table with Santa Claus is indeed gets my vote.
Thank you, lady.
Look at that little old me.
Ah, very well told, Countessa.
Oh, thank you. Marky, another round on me. And so now do we go from here? And I ask the next question?
Yeah, this is technically a whole new game.
All right.
So we're going to redistribute them coins, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess just keep track of your
Otherwise,
bounties.
the lady would not be able to.
Yes.
Or do we want to keep these and add new coins?
Do you have new coins to add?
Yeah, I can easily do this. Boom. Here's yours.
Oh, grazie.
Oh, yes. It looks like the next game is not supposed to. It's the next game, whenever that may be played. Since we are playing it right now, let us redistribute.
Seems like such a wonderful renewable resource.
Yeah. If only.
It's always been how I believe the upper classes see wealth. It just
Yeah.
sort of shows up
That is my understanding
in
as
your
well.
faces. Mm-hmm. The gentleborn understand. Well, this is quite a charming game. Let's keep it going. Lord Monsterson.
I'm gonna shrink this a little bit to allow
Lord
for...
Monsterson, Lady Lori, you've turned into a table. Oh, you're back.
I have special skills that way, my dear.
I am so relieved to see you return.
Trappy
But Lord
Jenkins,
Monsterson.
hello. Sorry.
Do tell us. I have heard tell. And I would love to hear the story how you arrived in St. Petersburg in a sled pulled by a giant wild wolf.
Oh, I remember that story. Yes, dear Countessa, I remember that experience as if it was only a few years ago. For it was but a year ago, in the dead of winter, that I was... that I had been tasked with bringing the Tsar news of a delay in their Christmas. But sadly, I was rushing along the road. I had my carriage decked out, all the latest snow traveling gear. But alas, the snow was worse than I could have imagined. And just well into the Novembers, I was covered. My wagon just got covered in all of the snow and sleet of the season. My horses literally froze. Not to death, but they just froze, and I could not make them move. So I ventured forth on my own with not but the warm clothes on my back and the message for the sad message for the dear Tsar in my heart. And over many weeks, I trudged and tromped through this snow. And soon enough, I realized that whilst I trudged, I was also hunted. For not many people would have been able to notice, but my keen hunter eyes every now and again would notice a large movement in the distance, and I picked up on it being a large wolf that was hunting me, white as the snow, with deep dark eyes. But there was naught that I could do but trudge on, just in the hope that I could bring this sad news to the Tsar of Christmas's delay. And
a moment there, Lord Monsterson.
Yes?
My good man.
Mm-hmm.
Surely the large wolf would have found easier prey in your horses, already frozen solid and incapable of fleeing.
Well, sir, see, you spoketh thus to the heart of the issue. My horses were frozen, solid, and what animal wishes to eat something as solid as rock and ice when there is something much more fleshy and tender available?
Ah, but good Lord Monsterson, surely you're aware that the white wolves of Russia are particularly suited to eat animals which have been frozen by the bitter cold winds of that nation.
Sir, you test me. For but this was not one of the great white wolves of Russia, but it was a great wolf of the Ukraine. For I had not made it yet to Russia.
That does explain.
And the wolves of Russia, sure, they can eat ice like it was so much steamed meat. But the large Ukrainian wolves, burly and strong as they are, just don't like eating ice.
That does explain all. I apologize for the interruption.
Not at all, dear sir.
But Lord Monsterson, however did you manage to convince the beast to pull your sled instead of eating you? And where did you even get a sled from?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, is why I didn't get that bet.
Because I relented. The person who relents gets the coins.
Okay.
Is that because...
That's what I was talking about earlier, that the game has
I was trying to relent on that first time.
Oh, were you?
And work your thoughts into my story. But, okay.
Well, see, what I said is, why didn't the wolf eat your horses? And you said, why would a wolf eat horses? So I took that as not accepted.
I said, why would a wolf eat frozen horses?
Right, exactly. Why would a wolf eat frozen horses? So I took that as you rejecting what I'd said.
Oh, see, I was trying to work it in. Okay.
Ruling from the other two?
I think he gets the coin. He accepted your theory that an Arctic wolf is naturally inclined to eat horses and came up with a reason it was a different wolf.
Agreed.
All right, fair enough. Well, at that point, then he would receive 3 coins because I didn't.
But the contestant did bring up a very interesting question, in which I am all ears to hear, as to how you got this sled and how you convinced the wolf to take you all the way to Russia.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Have patience, lady.
It is just
It
so
is a
enthralling.
virtue.
We are waiting with bated breath.
Now, as has been pushed at me unquestioningly, how did I convince this wolf to take me to Russia? And where did I get this sled that it drove me on? Well,
is that
I
a
haven't gotten to the
challenge
sled yet.
from Sarah, or were you just trying to get him to continue?
Nope, not a challenge.
Okay.
So that I laid a trap for this wolf because I thought that, well, I am not going to be hunted. I will be the hunter. So I did up just the most intricate trap, Goldbergian in its complexity, involving trees and ropes and levers and pulleys that I constructed on the spot with my woodworking knife. And I waited. I hid in the trunk of a dead tree, waiting for that wolf to come to me. And it did. And as it approached, it spoke. And it said to me, "Sir, I am. My sight is not so bad that I cannot see this contraption you have laid out for me. But pray tell, would you... I am not here to consume you. I only come to ask your assistance." Which came to me as a shock. I mean, have any of you heard of wolves speaking like men?
Yes, sir. It's quite common in those parts of the world where the ice is so cold that they have nothing to do but speak to themselves to keep themselves company.
Exactly. So, warily, I emerged from the dead tree, and asked this wolf that now that I was snout to snout with it, this wolf must have been easily the size of one of my horses, but broader, burlier, and fluffier. Pardon?
Do forgive me. I'm being attacked by a wild panther.
Some sort of furry snake.
Hmm? I'm listening. I'm just gonna feed this wild panther before he eats.
Sorry, I needed to refill my glass.
Pray continue, sir.
This wolf entreated me to do it a favor. And I said to it, "Wolf, great white wolf of the..." What did I say it was? Great white wolf of the Eastern Europes. What do you need? And the wolf replied to me that it was actually it needed assistance getting to its new bride. For you see, this wolf was engaged to another canine in St. Petersburg. So I said, yes, this is fortuitous because I too am traveling to St. Petersburg. But, my dear wolf, we won't make it just walking alone. We need some sort of vehicular transport to help us travel the distance. And the wolf replied to me, but my dear Lord Monsterson, for my name is known far and wide. It knew of a place we could get such transport. For there was a logging community just maybe a mile distant. And the wolf actually knew of a beautiful sled that we could obtain, or that I could obtain, as its owner was not willing to give it up to a talking wolf. So we traveled to this logging community, and lo, one of the loggers had the most glorious sled, finely inlaid and carved with beautiful scenics of the woodlands and fairies, and there's a big Santa on the back. And when we got there, I was able to gamble this man in a series of dice games that lasted 5 days just straight of dice gaming, trying to build my pot so that I could bet it against. Yes.
But Lord Monsterson, surely you are aware that the working class peasants of that area are not familiar with the concept of dice as we have them. They are more inclined to cast sticks and bones.
That is true, Count. And savage these men were. But I was able to teach this one logger in particular over this, near week of play, how to gamble like a true gentleman. And thereby enrich his squalid life. And
very
give him
noble
that
pursuit.
Little spark of nobility.
A very noble pursuit, sir.
Yes. And eventually I was able to win this amazingly beautiful sled from him. And the wolf agreed to be tied in and pull this sled with me in it all the way to St. Petersburg. And when we reached St. Petersburg, the people were just all out cheering and crying with both amazement and happiness and sadness. Happy that I was there, amazed at this great wolf that I had brought with me, and sad because I was bringing news that their Christmas would be late this year due to the unseasonable amount of snow and wind and weather that was going on. That and amongst these people, well, no, not amongst these people, apart from these people, I led this after the celebrations in the morning and the knowledge of this belated Christmas. I was able to lead this wolf out into the woods where his fiancée waited, and she had brought with her a frozen elk it was the size of both of them. And I worried because I knew that this Ukrainian wolf that had carried me this entire distance, pulling me on this gorgeous sled, didn't like that kind of food. But his beautiful bride was able to convince him to try it, and that if he didn't like it, she'd help him eat it. And they still hunt those woods happily together to this day. And that is the story of how I came into St. Petersburg on a sled pulled by a wolf.
Huzzah!
It all makes perfect sense to me. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful, Lord Monterson.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that said, my dear lady, might hap you tell me of the time of how you sailed across the Mediterranean without a boat?
Oh, my Lord Monsterson, that is a tale that comes with a price, and a very big price. It all started when I was on the trail of my arch nemesis, Count Nemo of Sis. And he had fled across the Mediterranean, as you said, on a boat. But not just any boat, a boat that was mechanical in nature and could sail that not just went across the water, but under the water. It was a marvelous contraption, which, by the way, the plans of which he had stolen from me, because I had designed a contraption, a sailing vessel that would not sail on top of the water, but under the water, using compressed air. And so he had stolen my plans and stolen the first design that I had created and made and machined. And so I was on the trail of Count Nemo of Sis. And I knew not where he had went. I just knew he went somewhere in the Mediterranean. And so began my journey to find him. And you asked, how did I sail across the Mediterranean without a boat, you ask? It was quite simple.
Lords and ladies.
Yes.
Beg my pardon. Would you mind if I took a minute to retire to the toilet?
A good plan for us all. Let us return to hear the
somewhat
rest
fit to burst.
of Lady Ludher's story in 10 minutes.
Shall we return in 10 minutes?
Yes, all right.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We've returned to the table to pick up where we left off.
Yes, and I believe where we left off, I was just explicating how I sailed across the Mediterranean without a boat. And I was just explaining how my arch nemesis, the dastardly Count Nemo of Sis, had absconded with my prototype of a subsailing machine. Luckily, even though I knew not where he had gone or where he had went when he absconded with my machine, I had some ocean friends. A long, long time ago, probably 2 or 3 of their generations, I had once saved a dolphin from choking on a tuna. And this dolphin had remembered my kindness, and ever since then, I have retained this relationship with not just this dolphin, because once you save one dolphin, it's just not 1 or 2 or 3, it's their whole pod. And so this dolphin had remembered me and told of my kindness and greatness in saving her life from choking on a tuna fish. That her granddaughter, that it was her granddaughter, after a couple of generations later, this granddaughter, dolphin, that I had maintained a relationship with. I had called her using our special whistle. I said, dear granddaughter Dolphin, I have great need of your help and of your assistance.
But, Lady Ludher,
Yes.
I do not know if my lady is aware of the situation under the sea, but it is well known among those who have acquaintances in the undersea nation of Atlantis that the king of that realm, who is recognized as monarch among all the creatures of the sea, did not less than 150 years ago forbid the dolphin community from engaging in the practice of life debts due to the incredible financial strain it was putting on the kingdom of the sea.
Yes, this is quite true, my friend. And there is such a thing 150 years ago that the king of Atlantis did forbade his dolphins from engaging in life debts because of the high economical costs to the city of Atlantis. However, the king of Atlantis is a very good friend of my grandfather. And in fact, the king of Atlantis's great aunt's sister's daughter is my second cousin, third removes, I think, brother? One of those removes. And we are, in fact, relations. And so I am indeed a citizen. However, I believe it's three times removed, a cousin of the king of Atlantis. Of course, the relation is a bit far, which is why I'm merely a lady and not, say, of higher title of nobility, say, a Grand Duchess or even a Princess Royal.
That indeed does explain it.
Yes. So indeed, so this dolphin who has received the life debt from her grandmother, heard my call and agreed to help. And she called her brother and her sister, and then she called her cousin and her twice cousins, and they all joined in my little mini pod. And from there, I was able to build a board and string it around one of the dolphins in a harness. And I was in a chariot, not a chariot, more like a longboard, harnessed to these dolphins. And dolphins, I'm sure you are quite aware, are quite savvy in the sea. And they have these inborn mechanisms where they can tell where other things are. I think they might call it sonar. I am not quite so sure. But they were able to find, using some sort of inborn genetic skill of theirs, to locate my large mechanical prototype under the sea. And with them, I was able to travel through the waves of the Mediterranean without a sailboat. And we went through isle, just trying to locate the dastardly Count Nemo assist. And I believe we went to the Isle of Malta, and there was another one. We don't much talk about it. Was it Crete? There was like terrible minotaurs or something like that. But anyway, we sailed from isle to isle on the trail of the dastardly thief. And with my friends, the dolphins, we were able to sail all the way through the Mediterranean from one end, from the tip of Portugal, all the way to, was it the port, Constantinople, or Istanbul as they now call it? Yes. And I vow, and that is how I sail through the Mediterranean on the backs of my friend, the dolphins.
Fantastic story.
Huzzah.
Yes.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
Fantabulous, dear
Excellent.
lady.
I shall have to thank the
And
king
as
of
we all
Atlantis
know-
when I next see him.
Yes, yes. Now, my dear Count, I have heard many a tale of your daring do, but one of the ones that most intrigued me was how you accidentally discovered, or your discovery of the efficacy of swallowing frogs as a cure for leprosy.
Well, you see, that is a fine tale indeed. Though, in fact, I am credited with that discovery. It was, in fact, information that was shared with me by my great friends, the Neptunian Empire. You see, on one of my early voyages to the bottom of the ocean to visit my friend, the King of Atlantis, the submarine craft of your own design, lady, that I was employing to reach them malfunctioned, and while it should have dove downwards to the bottom of the ocean, instead shot straight up into the sky at a rate so rapid that the buttons popped off of my waistcoat. Seeing that there was not to be done but try to steer myself towards the nearest planetary body, I quickly found myself aiming straight for the planet of Neptune. It took but a mere 5 minutes to reach it, so great was my speed. And when the impact approached, I resolved to soften the blow by the only means available to me, several large casks of brandy. 3 of them I strapped to the outside of the submarine in order to cushion the impact, while the other 3 I myself drank in order to limber up my joints and survive the collision in the manner of one who flows like water. It was, by my count, several Neptunian weeks when I regained consciousness. The remains of the submarine, those early models having been made of oak wood, were splintered all around me. But, fortunately, I was not dead, for I had been fed and cared for by the locals of that planet.
Now, hold on just a second there, my dear Carol.
Yes, I had a question too, but please go on, Contessa.
Oh, why, thank you, my dear Lady Luring. I was just going to say that doesn't make any sense. Everybody knows that the peoples of Neptune are in fact quite warlike and do not appreciate visitors of any kind.
You are mostly correct, Contessa. However, the incredible pace with which I struck the surface of their planet, destroying several schools in the process, convinced them that I was a foe to be reckoned with. And in fact, the people of the immediate area there immediately accepted me as their own warlord and took to caring for me so that I might wake up and command them in battle myself. Now, Lady Ludher, I believe you had...
Yes, you had mentioned that they gave you food and drink to recover after many Neptunian weeks. But I know for a fact that the citizens of the kingdom of Neptune do not subsist on food, any sort of food that we know or drink that we know, but subsist solely on solar and cosmic radiation as their point of subsistence. So what did you consume while you were injured in their care?
I am so glad you asked. As I have already mentioned, I was indeed heavily intoxicated prior to the impact. And as it turns out, the human form, sufficiently pickled, is able to absorb the same radiation that the Neptunians themselves survive upon. In fact, it not only nourished my body, but enabled me to breathe their foreign atmosphere, for that is, in fact, what enables them to do so as well.
That is quite a fascinating discovery, Bonaventura.
Thank you. I thought so as well. I myself am often surprised by the twists and turns one finds when out upon the road.
Well, let me not keep you. Please continue.
Yes. So, as I was saying, I'm sorry, I forgot the prompt.
Your discovery of the
What?
efficacy of swallowing frogs
Oh,
as
yes.
a cure for leprosy.
The frog swallowing. As it turned out, the Neptunians have long known the many health benefits of frog swallowing. And once they began to recognize me as their own warlord, it was still a bit of work to get them to reveal all of their medicinal secrets, for it was assumed that I would already know such things, and were I not careful, I would have revealed myself as, in fact, being of a less advanced race. So, over the course of many weeks, I adopted many of their customs. They grow long purple beards in order to assert their status among their fellows. I, of course, did this. Growing the long beard was something I had already had quite a start on, and through a sheer force of concentration and a meditation ritual I learned in the mountains of Tibet, I was able to turn my beard to a purple color, establishing my dominance over them. In the same time period, I was teaching them many things that Earthlings know that they do not, such as how one may exercise the body in order to improve one's combat prowess. You see, they do no such thing. They simply sit upon oddly shaped chairs all of their lives until it is time to fight. But with my aid, they became fiercer warriors than ever.
But Count, how on earth did you ever manage to return back to Earth?
Ah, quite well phrased, Contessa. I will tell you, once I extracted from them, through means of my superior guile and trickery, many of their medicinal and technological secrets, I was able to recreate the malfunctioning submarine which took me to Neptune in the first place. And while I will not claim to have reached the beloved Earth on my first attempt, I did, through many other adventures to our neighboring planets, eventually manage to make my way back home. At which point I told the world of my most efficacious discovery, the eating of frogs. Unfortunately, the scientific community was not ready for the information that frog eating can, in fact, cure every disease known to man. They instead ascribed it merely to leprosy, and called me a kook when I said it could do anything else.
Say it isn't so.
Take heed. Diphtheria, cholera, anything you name. Eat a frog, done.
And all this time, I thought it was taking cocaine that solved everything.
Well, it is a little known fact that cocaine is made from the ground up teeth of a frog.
I did not know that.
Few do. It's a trade secret.
Now I do know that.
Now, my dear Contessa, I myself have wondered how it was, as I heard, that you seduced the Queen of the Moon, even though she stands 300 feet tall.
Oh, seduce is such a word with so many connotations to it.
Indeed.
It's the correct word, I feel, in this case. But it was such a funny story. Well, I have to say, have you heard of the antiquities of Athens?
Oh, indeed.
Because it really begins there. I was spending a little time exploring the ruins, as it were, of those ancient masters that came before us, the founders of civilization, as it were. And while I was making my way through a new, well, I don't like to brag, but it was a somewhat major discovery beneath the temple of Artemis, I did stumble upon that hidden chamber. Just happened to put my hand right in the right place. I've always been very, very lucky. And wouldn't you know it, the walls just gave way around me, and I plummeted 50 feet straight down into a pool of the most delicious, bubbly champagne. And it was extraordinary, because it was ancient, but it was still delicious. And I tried not to drink too much, but I did. Which made what came next very difficult.
Contessa?
Oh, yes.
Where again did you say you were discovering this temple?
Where or when did you say?
Where?
In Athens, of course. The Temple of Artemis.
Well, then obviously it could not have been champagne you fell, a great pool of champagne you fell into. For that would only be there were you in the Champagne region of the Dutch nation.
My dear Lord, I thought you were going to say that Athena should have been, there should have been Athena's temple and not Lady Artemis's, but yes, I agree. Lord Monsterson.
Oh, my dear Lord Monsterson, my dear Lady Lorraine. Oh, my friends. Let me take a moment to address your points one at a time, if I may. First of all, Lord Monsterson, you are, of course, correct. It is not champagne unless it is from the Champagne district of the Netherlands. Our dear friends who make it in the great vats formed by the dikes as the water flows over the top and through those little holes that the children come and stick their fingers in. It is not champagne unless it's from there, but it was. Very few people know this, but the ancient Greeks did have a robust trading relationship with the Dutch. And Lady Liberty, it is, of course, it is so foreign to so many women, and it's so sad, but I do hope you will know that Athena and Artemis had a very good relationship with each other. There was no jealousy there, and they were more than happy to share cities and temples. There is, of course, a temple of Artemis in the city of Athens, and there is a temple of Athena in the city of Artemisia someville.
I was not aware of that, Contessa. Thank you for elucidating and clarifying the question.
Of course. The sisterhood is strong. The sisterhood is strong.
Yes, I should have realized.
Strong like my accent.
Oh, your accent isn't strong at all, my dear.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. At any rate, fell into the champagne, drank a little bit too much, but that, of course, lowered the level of the water, and I was able to read the writing on the wall. The writing that had been hidden for thousands of years. And no sooner that it directed me on how to build a portal. And of course, being the person that I am, I just could not resist. It took years of my life, 2 of my husbands, before I completed it. But when I did, before I could step through it, pulled me in. And I found myself looking this strange, incredible creature in the eye. Her skin like cut diamond, her eyes like amethysts and emeralds, a swirling, sparkling, greeny, purple, magical thing. And she looked at me and she said, "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." And I said, "Oh, why, thank you. I get that all the time. You're too kind." And then she said next, she said, "You must stay with me always." Like, oh, well, that is so very kind of you. And I fully support folks of your persuasion, but I just, that's just not me. I just find men easier to, how do I put this? Pass away when I'm several continents away from them. And I can prove that every single time. And you look very robust and in good health, and I just really have no idea where to even start with this. So I'm going to step backwards. And I did. And wouldn't you know it, this is why it's always important to read the directions in full before you begin, because there was, in fact, a way to reverse the portal. And if I had just stepped right through without reading the whole directions, I would never have known it. But I did. It is always good advice. Read the directions fully every time. My dear friend Jean-Jacques Rousseau of Paris did tell me that. That is how he wrote so many. Wonderful. It is his The Age of Reason. The founder of The Age of Reason, you may have heard of him. That is, in fact, one of the key tenets of The Age of Reason. Always read the directions before you begin. And so, as it happened, there was a special word, a magical pass, a few things that needed to be dropped in key locations out of my pockets that I did put in my pockets first. Long story short, I was back right where I started, plummeting 50 feet again into the champagne. And that was how I seduced the Queen of the Moon, just by being little old me. If you're interested, by the way, in the directions for the portal, I'd be happy to make those available for a few coins.
Oh, quite the tale, Contessa.
Queen of the Moon does seem very lonely if you're looking for something special.
Well, as it happens, I am already quite a friend of hers. In fact, it was her herself who told me of your exploits. Although it was hard to get information out of her, as she was most distraught over the manner of the ending of that tale.
Well, I do. I just can't help breaking hearts wherever I go. I feel terrible about it, but that is just the burden of being me.
Indeed, a terrible burden to bear.
Mm-hmm. Well, what a lovely round of stories we've had here. Shall I, since I, after all, did begin this tale, I do think, my goodness, so many to choose from, so many wonderful stories. We had Lord Monsterson telling us the tale of finding a sled and a wolf. We had Lady Luring with her amazing underwater sailing boat and her laugh deck from the dolphins, and Count Buenaventura. Your, of course, tale that it's just on the tip of my tongue. Perhaps I've had a little too much champagne again. It was the
frogs, the leprosy.
The frogs, of course, and Neptune. That's what I get for taking cocaine instead of eating frogs. Just memories gone. I have to say, those were all some amazing tales, but my vote goes to Lady Luring this time.
Oh, thank you.
I have to put my vote behind a lady with such a brilliant scientific mind.
Oh, you are just too kind, Contessa, too kind, and I did so enjoy your story.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, these were all amazing and fantastical stories. Each of you deserves just all the accolades from what you've said. But for me, for the story that I think holds the most weight and the most Oh, that thing the French call je ne sais quoi.
Hmm.
I think I would have to put my pot behind. You know, I think I'll be putting my pot behind the Count and his tale of learnedness and medicinal exploration.
Indeed. Thank you, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
A great story, if I say so myself.
As for myself, as much as I enjoyed your portal to the moon, Contessa, and your discovery of the cure for leprosy, dear Count, the tale of how Lord Monsterson and the wolves taught a Ukrainian wolf to eat frozen elk was just amazing to me. So, Lord Monsterson, my vote is with you this round.
Cheers. Many thanks.
Oh, well.
I dare say the most amazing tale I've heard this night is that of the invention of the submarine, the very submarine that I myself flew to Neptune and beyond. I believe I have no choice but to acclaim the Lady Ludhair's story, the greatest this evening. I can't.
Oh,
see
thank you, thank you, dear Count.
Uh-oh.
Although it was most likely that dastardly Count Nemo of Sis who leaked those plans. I was not quite ready. I was still on version 1. Probably had version 1, which, you know, at this point I'm on version 10. We must talk again. I no longer use oak barrels for my submarines.
You must remind me to tell you of the notebook I have, which contains the sum of all human knowledge, including the notes that you yourself have written.
Fascinating.
That is how I was able to acquire your submarine while you were still inventing it.
Hmm. Oh, is that how you were able to get to the moon?
I never visited the moon, Contessa. The Queen of the Moon, in fact, comes to visit me quite frequently.
Oh. Well, perhaps I'm not too old for a little. Perhaps you'll let me know the next time she comes to visit? Maybe,
I'm afraid that might be unwise. She is still somewhat enamored of you.
well, gotta be a first time for everything.
Do you guys want to do
believe
another
a heart
round?
here. I am feeling a little run down at this point
I
in
have
the
no.
night.
I have no objection to ending early. We've
What?
done 2 rounds of this game.
I think I'm ready to
But
wrap it.
that said, a hearty hear to the Count
And to the
and
Lord. God.
his glorious victory on this night.
Oh no, you're
And
right.
it's-
That's 9, not 8. Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Huzzah!
It was well.
Huzzah indeed.
That victory is well won.
Thank you, my lord and ladies. It is true that I am a daring adventurer and a keen storyteller. However, it must also be noted that I am also a cunning gambler. Thank you. All right, guys. We'll be back next week, and you know, I've been drinking actual alcohol here, so I don't know what we're playing next week. It is
Next week,
We were pulling this up.
Stars Without Number.
Stars Without Number.
I've got to DM that. I bet.
What is it?
Darling, you know that you're
Are you DMing that?
podcasting that, right?
What was that? What did you say? I missed that. If you were asking if
Internet's
I
been
knew
spotty.
that was on the screen, then yes, I did know that.
Oh, just checking.
It wasn't secret info or anything.
All right.
But yeah, I'm DMing that, I'd better learn the game. Some of you, or perhaps someone else, had better sign up to play it, because there's only one player on there right now.
I shall be in the Hawaiian Islands, so...
Oof.
Well, if our fine viewers will return this Friday, you will see the main 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign of Shadows of Arconia returning to pick up where we left off 2 weeks ago. And after that, we will play Stars Without Number on Monday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jason, for suggesting this game.
So,
This is a lot
It
of
was
fun.
very fun.
I like this one. I feel
excellent.
like this game...
Thank you all for playing.
I feel like there's strategy to this game that I didn't understand before we played it. Because of, like...
Yeah.
You have to earn coins so that your vote at the end has more weight. So that's where the strategy comes in. That's the answer to my question from the beginning of what should you be playing for. You should be playing for the coins.
And
Yeah.
Sarah, kudos for staying in character.
Yeah,
Well-
Sarah wins. I had a whole Spanish accent that I was going to do, and it didn't last past my introduction.
Well, I wanted to do like a German accent, but I knew I couldn't do it, so I just played regular.
You have your own Yuri accent.
I was shooting for like upper crusty British, but I just kept deflating.
I was trying to be like a Spaniard, but I kept becoming Radomir Utgast. All right,
Not a
gang.
bad
In
character.
fairness, I think I missed my
All right.
accent by several states.
Yeah, that's fine.
It kind of traveled about and became something.
Well, I mean, at that point in time, I mean, were there really several states, or was it all just, one mushy territory?
Actually, I believe at that point in time, the distinctions between the states were much clearer than they are today.
Mm.
Well, you will need to keep that in mind as a story prompt for the next time we play.
That's a good idea. All right, guys, we'll see everyone on Friday and then again next week. Thanks for watching, and we are out of here.
Bye.